So like I mentioned, today is all going to be about leveraging StayFi's two upsell partners, the Hostco and Viator, to help you generate more revenue and to improve the experience of your guests. And so we're going to go through all sorts of tips and tricks of how to implement these tools successfully within StayFi. They're all free as part of your StayFi subscription, so there's no added cost using any of these tools. They're all included in your service. In addition, a lot of these tools are accessed through a feature in StayFi called the homepage. This is where your guests are taken after they log into the Wi-Fi, and it can be used also in a variety of other circumstances. So I will also be going over how to set up homepage in your account to get the most out of this feature. So first, I'm going to just talk a little bit about the homepage and then review how you set this up in your account. And there's lots of ways to get value out of this particular product. So as just a little reminder, when you set up the Wi-Fi experience in StayFi, there's really two steps that guests are going through. The first is the captive splash page where guests are entering in their information. So you're collecting name, email, phone number, etc. After the guests hit connect, they're taken to another page, and that page is called Homepage. The idea for Homepage is that it allows you to share all of the essential links, information, and upsells with your guests right when they log into the Wi Fi. This is a great way to get this information in front of non booking guests. So, as all of you may be aware when you're messaging through Airbnb directly through Verbo and you're sending information about the property or maybe links to a guidebook to the booker, it's most likely that booker is then not sharing this information with the other guests that have booked your listing. A homepage is a way to now get that information that you want guests to know in front of everybody who's there. And logging in at Wi Fi is one of the ways you can get this information. What's great about these homepages, which are unique for each property, is that they can also be accessed as a standalone web page. So you can share this homepage in many other places and in many other ways with your guests so that they can go back and easily access this information. So in your homepage, you can have things like a link to a guidebook. That can be a digital guidebook, like a TouchStay or Hostfully guidebook. It can also be a PDF. So we let you upload PDFs, so you don't even need something that fancy to upload here and then give everyone access to that guidebook during the course of the stay. Of course, book again is a very popular button, so you can have people go and find not just your website, but the specific listing you're staying in, your website, custom buttons, which I'll show you how to make. And then, of course, we have our free integrated upselling partners, the Hostco and Viator. Hostco, which we'll dive a lot into, is how you can sell your own services and actual physical goods, as well as partner services where you earn a rev share. And then we also have Viator. Viator is the largest marketplace for experiences and activities and even tickets. And it's part of TripAdvisor, so it's part of that larger company. And through Viator, you can actually earn 8% commissions on everything that you sell through your Viator links. And they have a pretty long cookie window. I think it's 30 days. So if anyone clicks your Viator link, purchase in with 30 days, you can actually earn revenue from those sales as well. And they have the most comprehensive inventory for activities. So pretty much no matter where you are hosting guests, you'll be able to find something that you can offer through this channel. So now I'll just go into StayFi to give everyone a reminder of how to actually set up the homepage, as this is kind of the first step in offering upsells through StayFi. So if you go to guest experience here on the left, this is where you set up your splash page and homepage templates. And so for both splash pages and homepages, we have the same process to create them. The first is we set a standard template that's applied to all properties. Then you go to the next level and then you can customize for each property. But first, we kind of set a baseline that all your properties are going to share, and then we can customize on an individual property basis. So first, I'll go to edit homepage template here. This is where I'll be setting up the template. So there's some things that are going to be shared on all of your homepages. So you can display the property address if you'd like, and we'll import that from your property. You can have a contact us button. That will be the same for all properties. That's up here, and you can set the fields you want here. And then below, we have some buttons that are going to be included in every guidebook, in every homepage. The thing about these buttons is let's say you don't have a guidebook. You can't delete this button here, but the way that it works is that if you do not put a link or upload a PDF for the property, then this button doesn't appear. So don't worry if you don't have guidebooks because you don't put anything into that actual for each property, this button's not going to appear. So that means you can create custom buttons, which I'll show you in a second, that may only apply to some properties because you're only going to put in a link for the properties where it applies. So you can change the order of these here. So you can have guidebook or book again first, whatever you'd like. Visit our website, put in your website, and then down below you can add custom buttons. So you can create a button for anything. So you can just have one. I'm going to do, um, let's just say I have like a very popular tour in my town. So I'm going to say like purchase favorite tour. And so this will allow me to link directly to that Viator tour that we're going to set up later. And set an icon, and then you're good here. If you guys do digital advertising, you can actually include a Facebook pixel here for retargeting purposes. And then down below, this is where you can basically turn on the Hostco and Viator partnership within StayFi. Um, for the Hostco, when you turn this on, it's going to actually create a Hostco account for you with this email, and you will get an email to log into your Hostco account, which I'll show you a little bit down the line. This is also going to create all your Hostco stores. So we actually send all your properties to the Hostco, and they'll create an individual store for each property for you already. And then for Viator, we send you instructions for how to apply and sign up for the Viator affiliate program, and I'll go over that in a little bit later. And then after you've decided these are all the potential buttons I want, and I turn on Viator and Hostco, I hit update here. And I need a description here. So I'll just add that. So if you get an error like that, you just redo it. Then now you can see my homepage template has been updated, and I have my new custom button here, and I already had these on. Then you can either go to bulk edit down here, or you can select bulk edit here. This is where you can actually enter bulk editor, then put the content in for each specific property. So one thing that you'll notice here is for each homepage, we import an image from your property management software. We import the first default image. So if you don't like this image, you can, of course, not import it and override this with another image that you upload here. For guidebook here, you can see this is where I can put a link to the guidebook for each property. Or if I want to go the PDF route, I can upload a file. For book again, this is where I want to make sure that these links are correct. Depending on what software you've connected, we may or may not know what this link is. So definitely go in here and make sure you insert the correct link for each one to book again. If I don't have a link, this button just doesn't appear for that specific homepage. Then I've created some custom buttons. So I have purchase early check-in. So this one I'm actually, and I'll talk a little bit more about later, but sometimes basically the items that you really want to push from the host score from Viator, you want to actually put in the specific link to the product for that store in here. So it will go right to purchase this. For the Hostco store, based on when we go and create your Hostco account for you, we actually go in and pull in the URLs for each store automatically. So these should come pre-filled once you turn on the Hostco integration, and you can go to each of your stores and view them here, but then we'll also show them through this Hostco app. Purchase favorite tour, we'll fix this later. I basically want to drag in my Viator tour. And then on the right here, this is where we add the Viator widget, which I'll show you how to make in a second. So we'll go back to that. But essentially, once I've filled in all the information for my homepage, I can hit preview here to the right, and you'll be able to go and see the preview for that property and click on these links and make sure that they're working. And each one is going to be different based on the property the guest is in. Now, this homepage obviously can be very valuable, and you may want to share the homepage with guests outside of the Wi-Fi login experience, right? So if you go down here, where for each property, I have copy link and copy QR code or download QR code. This link here will take me to the homepage for that property. And this link can be accessed anywhere you want. So you can send this to guests in your PMS messaging. You can send guests an email, and you actually in StayFi, we automate some of this, so I can show you that as well. But this link will always take you to the homepage for that property. And then download QR code if you want to make a fridge magnet, put this in a physical guidebook. You can also physically have the QR code downloaded here. And what's great about these QR codes or the links is that if I edit my homepage, it's going to take me to the latest version. So you don't have to worry about updating the QR code or links, that they'll always go to the latest version of the homepage for that property. Um, so that's basic homepage setup there. Please let me know if you have questions, and I'll get back to the presentation and we'll go into the host co. So the host co is our partner for selling your own services and amenities, as well as they have many partner services. And when you add the host co to your StayFi account, we automatically add this button, Shop Amenities, to all of your home pages, and we put the URL to each host co store. It's important to note that each property has its own store, and I'll show you how to add those in a second. So there's tons of ways that you can basically offer different things through the host co. So a lot of people like bundle multiple items. So like early check-in, late checkout, they want to offer that. They offer like some sort of package, like a s'mores package, firewood package. Those are all things that people basically offer as either their own services or actual physical goods in the property if you do want to do that. In the host co, you can track things like inventory. You can provide like lockbox unlocks. You can give people instructions of how to, once they do purchase, to go access those things in the property. Obviously, offering physical goods is a little more onerous because you need to like restock them and things like that. But there are hostco accounts that have made a ton of money offering those types of items through them. And then, of course, there's a bunch of partner services in there as well. And for each one, you earn a different commission. And you can see all of that in the hostco account, which I'll show you in a second. And then finally, you can pin top sellers to the top of the host co. They can have a ton of offerings in your market, and I'll show you an example. So you may want to like feature certain ones that you know are very popular. Yeah, so tons of different things in here. Anything from spa, like in-home services if you want to offer those, things that you can do to upgrade the stay. You can even like do rentable items with waivers. So if you have kayaks and bikes, you can offer like rentals of those and give people like the keys to unlock them, the codes to unlock them, and then you can even have insurance and damage waivers in the product as well. And then they have all their things like experience packages. And then actually the biggest moneymaker we see is things like early check-ins, late checkouts, mid-stay cleans. Obviously, when you're offering your own service, like a check-in, late checkout, mid-stay clean, has much higher margins because you're offering the service yourself, as opposed to, if you have a partner in the host co in your area that does fresh flowers, you'll make a small percentage of that purchase. So you'll still make some money. Obviously, it's not going to be as much as if they're purchasing the service or good from you, where you're deciding the price and the margin that you want to charge. And these are just some trending upsells that the host co let us know are very popular. So wellness, very big in certain markets. Special rentals, on-site amenities are a great way to make big bucks just because they're very expensive items. Pool heating is a big one. Convenient alteration, so obviously late checkout, early check-in, extra guests, and then on-site items. If you want to offer those and go through the process of like having those in your operations, those can actually make a great amount of money if you want to go ahead and support those. So things like firewood is a great example that I know is very popular in certain markets. So now I'll actually go into a Hostco account and show you how it actually works. So like I mentioned before, when you turn on our Hostco integration, it's going to create an account for you and actually populate your Hostco store with all the stores already here. Then you're going to have to go into each store and edit them based on what you would like. So I'll go into Joshua Tree Oasis because this has the most products. You can see here it has 63 products on the right. And based on the zip code, that's how the host code determines like which products should be seen in your property. So there's a ton of stuff here. So what I'm going to differentiate is the things that are offered by you, my products, and the things that are offered by local vendors. And they're all here. So we'll talk about my products first. These are by default, they always have early check-in, late checkout, pet request, a guidebook link, which is just like a free link here, and request extra guest. you can set any of these as active or inactive. So right away, we don't do pets and we already like know how many guests based on the booking. So we're not going to worry about that. We just want to offer early check-in and late checkout. Then when it comes to early check-in and late checkout for this property, I can go in here and edit it and basically decide, um, how I want to set up, what the rules are, the product description. The thing here is with Airbnb, we can now have this thing where the payment is going to be directed through the Airbnb Resolution Center as opposed to being doing through the host co. So you can stay compliant with those Airbnb rules. So the host co obviously contact their support if you have more questions, but they can explain how that works in terms of, yeah, some guests are going to go through Airbnb Resolution. And then, of course, if you're dealing with a Verbo booking, then they're going to come and pay through here, right? You can also set the price, obviously, and then you can see estimated profit. So basically, the way that the host code is free is they just take a commission, and they also handle all the credit card processing. So you can see here that's what you'll actually end up with if you charge $50. Then they have all these great settings here. So for instance, if I want to offer early check-in, I need notice ahead of time. I can decide how many days I need notice. Do you require approval? So basically, if you require approval, you get emailed whenever a guest requests this, and you can approve it, and then they'll be charged, right? So there's all these settings that basically can help you make sure that you offer early check-in or late checkout in a way that works for you and your business. And you can modify it for each property. Then for local vendors, this is what's going to be totally dependent on where you are located. So your zip code will determine what's in here. And you can see Palm Springs is a one that has a ton of local vendors. It can change a lot based on the destination. Obviously, some of these maybe you don't want these things in your property, like you don't want in-home massage and you don't want private chef at your location, right? Because you're not comfortable with that. Basically, you can again turn these on or off depending on whether you want that offered through your property. And then, of course, you can pin certain ones to the top if those are your favorite ones. So I can go to drag and drop titles and I can like move these around, depending on which ones I want to have. And then you can also add products. So if you are interested in adding like firewood, this is where you can basically add something like a good or a service or a rental. And with a rental, then of course you can have like those waivers and everything that you need when you go through this creation process. So it's extremely flexible in terms of how you set these things up. Now, one thing I did talk about is, let's say there are certain products you really want to emphasize on your homepage. So for each property, you can actually get a product link and copy it. And then when I go to bulk edit my home pages, if I really want to push early check-in, I can then copy in the early check-in actual link to that product here. And then when I go here, I have that custom button that's early check-in. And if I click it, it's going to take me right to purchase that for that property in the host co, right? So this is just a great way. If there's certain products you want to emphasize from the host co, create a custom button for your homepage, then insert a link to that product in each space for each specific home. And that way there's going to be a much higher conversion rate because people are going to see right there on the homepage that they can purchase early check-in or late checkout. You might be asking, how do I get people to purchase early check-in when they see the homepage when they log into the Wi-Fi? And I'll talk about that in a second with another tool in StayFi, but there is a great way to do that. So that was a Hostco. I'll just say the final thing about the Hostco is they have fantastic support. So obviously, they're our partner, but they know a lot more about the product than I do. So if you do have questions about the Hostco, please make sure that you contact their support. They can also do things like help you mass edit your stores. So let's say you have 50 stores, so you have 50 properties, and it sounds like a lot of work to go into each store and edit early check-in or late checkout to make it the rule that you want. They can help you and like apply rules across all your properties if you're offering one service and you need to make edits across all the different properties there. Uh, Next partner I'll talk about is Viator. Viator is a fantastic partner with StayFi because it's going to offer you the most tours and activities in your destination that you can then recommend to your guests to book. And Viator, because they're owned by TripAdvisor, they have the largest inventory and are really well known by guests. So they trust them as a booking platform. And we got some data from Viator essentially saying some of the most memorable parts of a trip and why someone loves coming to a destination. 87% of them, most memorable moments, were from participating in an activity. So if you're looking to have guests have a great time, give you a 5-star review, have them want to come back to your property and stay again, recommending activities that you love and you know that your guests are going to love is a great way to do that, to make sure people are having a great time at your property. It also gets them out of the property, off their iPhones and tablets, and out exploring where your properties are located. And the added bonus, of course, with Viator is you'll also make some revenue from any sales that you help your guests make. People typically book things ahead, so ahead of their stay. So, 1 to 7 days before is the most typical window people are going to be booking activities. So that obviously could be during the stay or right before the stay. So again, I'll talk a little bit more later about how you can share your homepage with guests also prior to the stay, so they can do things like purchase early check-in or see your recommended tours and activities. So what happens with StayFi again is you go into not the bulk editor, the template editor, you turn on Viator. When you do that, we'll send you a link. The link is going to lead you to the Viator partner program, and it will just basically instruct you to create an account. Anyone can create an account, doesn't require an application, so you should get instant access to the actual affiliate account. Now, the part that we use to create the button on your homepage is under widgets. If I go to affiliate tools here and go to widgets, I can create a widget. When you create a widget, you basically are going to put in a destination. So I'll stick with Palm Springs since we've been talking about Palm Springs. Once I select Palm Springs, it's going to show me here uh, a preview of what the widget is going to look like. So you can select number of experiences. Just an FYI, for showing it on the homepage, you will want to select the grid mode. And now what's great about this is if I do destination or attraction, it's going to show the top 9 booked attractions that are available right now in my destination. So there is another way to do this where you can basically manually input the tours and activities you want to feature. The one downside of that is if, let's say, this tour or activity sells out or goes out of business or is no longer available, then it just won't show up here on the grid anymore. I love destination or attraction because this is going to show what Viator knows right now are the most popular activities. Once, let's see, to make a name. Once I've created this widget, it will offer me right here the code that I'm going to need. So you just copy this code, which of course you can then find again over here, view code. You copy this code and you go into the bulk editor and you're going to paste that code into all my Palm Springs properties here. Now, of course, if you have multiple destinations, you could just create a different widget for a different destination and paste it into those links. Once I've pasted in the code, I'll show you what this experience looks like. You hit local attractions here, and then it will show me my local attractions for Palm Springs and give you an idea if I want to purchase the aerial tramway ticket. I click on this, and then the guest is taken right to this aerial tramway where they can then purchase the ticket, and you will get 8% if the guest purchases within 30 days. And of course, they'll see all the other activities down here. So if they happen to go through and then purchase this off-road tour, you will also get credit. So you're just sending guests into Viator. They decide they want to make a booking in this session or one within 30 days, you will get that 8% credit. And then you will see all of your basically performance under the performance here of how many clicks you've gotten and how many bookings you've made, etc. Now, there are tons of other ways to use Viator. So just to give you an idea, you can click Viator selector here, and you can go to, let's say, Palm Springs here. And let's say I really want to, I know all of my guests do this off-road tour in here, I can go here through the selector, hit get affiliate link, generate a link, and then because I made that button in here for my purchase my favorite tour, I can add that button here. And then when I go and look at this homepage here, it's going to have this favorite tour button. So again, instead of having to go to local attractions, see all the attractions for this destination, if I have a tour I know people love, like I know Nashville, they have those like trolley tours and things that are very popular, you can then again emphasize that Viator tour here, and then this link will go right to that tour, and somebody can go ahead and purchase that here. And again, you'll get that higher click-through rate if you really emphasize it on the homepage. Other thing just to note about this is those tours and activities, you can take these links and use them anywhere else. So if you have a blog on your website where you're linking, 5 favorite things to do in Palm Springs, you can use these links in your blog and generate maybe some revenue that way. If you are talking to guests through any messaging and they're asking for recommendations and you want to share your 3 favorite tours in a guidebook or in a message, you can use these affiliate links and link to your favorite tours so that way you can earn revenue that way. So the Viator affiliate program offers a lot of revenue possibilities, not just within StayFi, but within any way that you are communicating with guests or any content that you create, whether in an email or on a blog that you can share. And you can use the program really many, many, many different ways outside of just the StayFi homepage. So I went through that. Now we'll just talk a little bit about some best practices when it comes to how to sell as many different things as possible. So I talked about customizing your homepage. So that's definitely a big one. So if there are specific Viator tours or Hostco services you want to offer, make a custom button, then fill in those specific product links on your homepages. So those would be the top selling items. And then, of course, listen to your guests. So if you're often getting requests through Airbnb or through Vrbo where guests are saying, can I do a late checkout? Can I do an early check-in? Can I bring a pet? And maybe you don't want to allow pets all the time, but you want to do a pet fee, right? So there's all these different ways where you can basically take what guests are telling you and customize your offerings to let people pay for those services that they want to have for some of the stays that you don't want to make standard for everybody. Now, a big way to make sure that once you create a homepage, that people are seeing it and using it is making sure you're sending it to guests multiple ways. So obviously, everyone's going to see the homepage when they log into the Wi-Fi. Now let's talk about the other ways to make sure that the guest receives it. And a big one is pre-arrival messaging. So if you were not familiar, within StayFi, we have this relatively new tool called pre-arrival messaging. What pre-arrival messaging will do is essentially send a link to your homepage to the booker in advance of the stay through your software. So I have Hostaway connected right now. Of course, you can use this through any of our PMS partners. Essentially, we have this message here. This is the default one, which then you can, of course, edit. Just says, hi, we're looking forward to your stay at property name. Check out our homepage to find all the relevant information on the property. And then here, really importantly, they kind of emphasize so you can customize this here. Book early check-in, late checkout. So we're letting guests know some of the reasons why they should go to the homepage, because I'm going to let them know this is where you can purchase early check-in, late checkout, favorite tours and activities, etc. Right? So I want to customize this language to basically encourage click-through by making sure people know what offerings are behind this link. And then you can decide how many days in advance you want this to be sent. And then here you toggle it on to send this message through Hostaway. You can down here edit the message by property. So if you want the message to be different, you can again edit this template down below for the specific property here, and you can see what the message will look like right here. There are other ways to set this up. So this is set up in StayFi, so where we send it through Hostaway. There is this setup in Hostaway option where basically, let's say you want to make sure that all the messages you're sending to your guests through your PMS, you set up in your PMS, which I know some people want to do. They don't want to like forget about this message being sent. They want to make sure they see all the automated messaging together. For each property management software, we also have instructions for how to set up this same message in your host away, owner res, etc. account. If you want to make sure that these messages are just all clearly labeled within host away or whatever software we're using. And you can see here, like listing homepage URL, we've added that as a custom field automatically in your host away account. That will be the true for many other property management software, where we've basically made this custom field that you can actually include in as many messages as you want. So if you want to send the homepage 4 times prior to the stay through Hostaway, you can keep using this field over and over again. So you can either trigger the message through us, or you can set it up in your PMS if you want to basically see all your messaging there. We also have this feature up here to collect guest data. So if you want to set up this basically ability to collect the email when you send this message, that's an option up here as well, where we're actually going to collect email from the guest. Then they can share it with their party, and then they can get to the homepage for that property. So if you want to also use this pre-arrival to collect guest data and gate the homepage, that's an option as well, which you can toggle on here. The next 2 ways to share the homepage are going to be email and text marketing. And I'll show you how to do that now. So when you use StayFi email, we have some basically automated journeys that we've pre-configured that we recommend that you set up in your account. And one of those is Wi-Fi welcome. So essentially an email that will be sent to every guest when they log into the Wi-Fi. Now, I'm not going to go through the whole creation step, but essentially you can create the email through there. I'll just show you what this looks like. Is that in this email, it will kind of look like this. Um, there will be, actually, we've edited this one, so it's no longer the original one. But essentially, in this email, there will automatically be a button to go to the homepage. Maybe it's in this one, I think. No. Okay, sorry about that. It's one we don't have set up right now. But essentially, one of the blocks down here, when you go through this creation process, it will say visit your homepage, and we will have a button there where we automatically insert the homepage link into all of these welcome emails. So just trust me, when you go and click Wi-Fi welcome and you start creating this journey, you will basically, when the guest logs into the Wi-Fi, be sending them an email with a link to the homepage in that email. You can also do that in text marketing. So if you turn on text marketing in StayFi, we have a Wi-Fi welcome message. I think this is the most powerful one because this will get sent right to their phone and they'll have the link to the homepage. You can see here, this is the default message that we set up. So when you turn this on, when the guest logs into the Wi-Fi, if they subscribe to text marketing, they will get this text message that says find our recommended activities and more here. And that will have a link to the homepage for that property here. That's what these things are, the dynamic content down here. And because we have the homepage URL here, that will then be in their SMS inbox, and they can just click on that at any time to go back to the homepage and see all your upsells, late checkout, tours and activities, etc. I think this is the best one because the link will just be persistently available on the phone during the course of the stay in a very easy to find place that they can come back to again and again. And then finally, direct booking website incremental QR codes. Like I talked about before, the home page is always available as a link here. And then you can take this QR code and you can use it in printed materials, fridge magnets, etc. And then guests can scan that QR code with their phone and they'll be taken to the home page anytime that they want to go view it. Yep, so this is the pre-arrival tool I showed you about. Now I'll talk a little bit about case studies, just to give you an idea about what's possible. So this is one case study with a partner or customer of ours called Mike C Rentals. One thing I want to really emphasize here is that Mike is making a ton of money selling early check-in and late checkout through the host code. And so one you can take a look here is he's added those two custom buttons on his homepage and then the link to the store in the host co to the specific items so that people can just click there and purchase it. And then of course he's sending the homepage in advance of the stay through his software to make sure guests have access to this, or the booker at least has access prior to the stay. Mike also has a travel insurance company that he works with. Now, obviously, we don't have a travel insurance partner within StayFi, but because we have that ability to create custom buttons, you can link to any other upsell platform that you've been using or any other type of value add-on that you want to sell. So he has travel insurance here through a partner. He also has this very cool button down here in the bottom left. Claim your $1,000 refund when you buy a home with us. So, like many property managers, Mike is also has a real estate company. So he's also using the homepage to cross list some of his listings that are for sale, just because we know people that travel frequently to a destination are often the most likely people to then purchase a second home there, which then, of course, they need somebody to manage as a vacation rental. So you can use these custom buttons to really create anything you like and lead to any page that you like, even if they're not our Hostcore or Viator partner. Now, Stellar Dweller, their focus is different. They are helping rent a lot of physical items that they are generating a ton of extra money every single year. So you can see one here, a big one is electric golf carts. So they actually have their own small fleet of electric golf carts and that they are then renting through their home pages. Again, important that they send this in advance. But of course, people also decide when they get somewhere that they want a golf cart. They see everyone has one to get around and then decide to rent one while they're there. And they also have the umbrella and beach chair rental as well that they go ahead and give and set up for guests. So you can see here, they're more focused on the renting the physical items, less on the services. So again, depending on where you operate, what things that you want to operationally handle, you can decide how to customize the homepage and the host co to basically present the things that are going to work best for your business. And then here is another example of a company that has generated, they generated over 80,000 in 2023. And for them, they really focused on selling physical items as well as the late check-in, early check-in options. And what they really focus is on, again, customizing each store to make sure that it fit with what guests are looking for that property, sharing this Hostco store many, many times. So I think that's another key thing about the homepage or the Hostco is that you may need to share it many times in order for guests to look at it and really, adjust what's there and decide what they want. So at booking, 1 week before, at check-in, when they log into the Wi-Fi, after they log into the Wi-Fi, right? The more times that you share the homepage and your store, the more sales you're going to get. I think a lot of times people think, hey, I sent this one time to the booker through my property management software. Is that enough? Probably not, right? The other thing to remember is it's often the guests who are not the booker that are making these purchasing decisions. And that's where StayFi really comes into play, is that maybe the person who booked is not that interested in tours and activities, but once someone logs to the Wi-Fi, sees tours and activities in your area, sees what interesting things you recommend, then they make a purchasing decision, right? So don't limit yourself just to the booker. Think about how you can also get this information in front of non-booking guests who may want to purchase tour activity or one of your services you offer through the host co. Yep, so that is pretty much it for this presentation. So now I'll go over to questions, and I see we already have a few questions in the Q&A, which I would be more than happy to cover. Let me just go back to the beginning, unless if we want to go back over anything. Um, yes, someone asked about PMS integrations. I actually have two people ask about two integrations that we don't have today. So I'll talk a little bit more about um, what you can do with the integration and whether it's necessary or not. So you can see here, these are all the property management softwares that we have that are integrated with StayFi. To do everything I discussed in the product, you do not need to integrate your property management software. So you can create properties, you can create home pages without the integration. There will be a few things that just require an extra step. So when you have an integration, for instance, we pull in a photo to make your homepage with that photo. Of course, when you don't have integration, you just have to upload a photo. So that can all be done. It just might require a few extra steps just because there's a few things that we do for you when we do have the integration. Even the pre-arrival messaging you can do without the integration. We always have this setup manual option where down below, if you hit edit and preview message, you can take this message and just copy it into your software. So you just take this message and it will already include the link to that home page that you want to send somebody to. So you can copy this message or just copy this link here even, and then you can include that in your own pre-arrival messaging to your booker in a software that we don't integrate with, whether it's HostX or SuperControl, which are the two I see here. So you can still take this message and send it to guests in advance. Then there's nothing in the Hostco, Viator, guest experience that requires an integration. So you can do all these things without the integration. Integration is just going to make things a little faster because obviously we can add the properties, add the photos, but all the fields you could fill in just takes a little extra time. So all of it is possible without the PMS integration. So that shouldn't hold you back from doing any of the things I talked about. It just might take a little extra time. And of course, at some point, we will definitely add those integrations as well. Um, but yeah, don't let that hold you back. You can still do everything you want. And of course, you can always email support@stayfi.com if you get stuck at any point, and they can help you basically complete and achieve the objective you want using the StayFi product. Someone asked if this is recorded. Yes. So like I mentioned before, if you Google YouTube StayFi, you will go to our YouTube channel, and we publish all of these here. If you go to playlists here, you'll see we have a StayFi Marketing Mastery Series. All of these videos are going to be offered here. So you can find all the past mastery sessions we did, and you can watch any of these. This one should get posted tomorrow in the YouTube channel. And then, of course, you can rewatch it whenever you'd like. Someone asks, do they need a guidebook? So let me just go over this again. So first step to making home pages, you decide what links you want to have. So you can have, basically, we're always going to have a guidebook link, book again, website, and then you can add custom buttons, turn on the host code Viator. For all of these, including guidebook and book again, if you do not link to anything or do not upload a PDF, then the button just doesn't appear for that property. So as an example, if I go to bulk edit my properties here, if I delete the link here for guidebook for Cozy Forest Cabin, the guidebook button will just disappear. So there's no guidebook. And then when I do add a guidebook, whether it's a PDF or a link, then the button will appear. And that means that if you want to create custom buttons that only apply to some properties, that's totally fine because you'll just link the properties where it does matter. And then for other properties, you don't put anything in there and then the button doesn't appear. So custom buttons don't have to be for every property. They can just be for some, and you just link the relevant item in the space for that property. That looks like it is all the questions we have. I hope this session has been helpful. Like I mentioned before, it will be published to our YouTube channel to go back and watch it. If you have any questions, please, as always, email support@stayfi.com. I will just note if you have Hostco, especially Hostco specific questions, definitely contact the Hostco team as they're better able to help you than we are. So if you have a Hostco specific question, like editing all your properties or how certain things work with the Airbnb resolution session, please reach out center, please reach out to them, and they'll be best able to help you with Hostco specific questions. Awesome. Well, I hope everyone has a great rest of their week. Thanks for attending, and we will see everybody in 2 weeks for our next session. Thanks again.